Tom Ricketts continues to get asked about former Cubs player Sammy Sosa. We break down what he said this past weekend at the Cubs convention and is a reunion with the former slugger even possible. Two former players do get in the Cubs Hall of Fame and a new statue outside of Wrigley Field. Here we go.
Are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Cubs alongside Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. Pleased to be with you for a Tuesday episode. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into a discussion with you on all things Cubs. Well, Sam, there's still some post-Cubs convention that we're going to attempt to clean up, and we certainly have a fun conversation on the table for today's episode. And thanks to everybody, whenever and wherever you may be listening. If this is your first time here, please stick with us throughout the duration of the offseason and more. Sammy Sosa, former Cubs player, icon, fan favorite, helped save baseball when it needed it most in 1998 to the early 2000s. Franchise home run leader with 545 long balls, Sam. And for some reason, Tom Ricketts continues to be surprised that fans would ask about an iconic player that has been shunned. Interesting. But he was asked again this weekend. In fact, even before he was asked on the panel Saturday morning, several fans had already shouted his name Friday night during the opening ceremonies, and there was a smattering of Sosa chatter throughout the weekend. Where do you want to start here? I know Sosa has a great place in our Cubs fans' hearts, and quite frankly, he should be welcome back.
2 minutes and 31 seconds before I even say a word. How's it going? First of all, I'd like to apologize.
Going real well, by the way.
That makes one of us. First of all, I'd like to apologize to everybody about my audio yesterday. There's one person to blame, and he's currently talking. That should be fixed. Look, the Sosa thing it's just so dumb. My issue with the Sosa thing, and I've said it on this show before, is sometimes in life, you just put away the stubbornness. You put away the what may be technically wrong, and you just give people what they want to see. And look, Barry Bonds, I believe, has his number retired in San Francisco. Mark McGwire is in the St. Louis Hall of Fame. I understand Sosa did more than just steroids, right? There was the cork bat stuff. There was the way he left the team in 2004. Don't we believe he has paid his dues enough now? I'm not asking him to have a statue outside the ballpark, although, with baseball credentials, he would that would be in support of him doing that. I'm not asking him to have a numbers retired ceremony, although maybe giving Steven Souza Jr. his number was a bit slap in the face. I am just asking that we put him in the Hall of Fame, as we're going to get to later on in the show, alongside Sean Dunston and Mark Grace and the rest of the guys that couldn't hold his jockstrap in the Hall of Fame. And just have a day. Just have a day. It's like, for example,
he doesn't even need to be in the Hall of Fame. Just come to the park.
Right.
Come to the park.
Mike Tyson is a really good example about
this. A first pitch or something.
I'm not getting into like the specifics. I'm just saying Mike Tyson is a guy that in the prime of his career was a very flawed man outside the boxing ring. People still love him. They loved him then and they loved him now because you couldn't replace I've heard people say this in the mid 80s when he would have a fight and just how electric that was and what that did for people. That's how Sammy Sosa was, the baseball version in the late 90s for Cub fans. And it's just like on this show. If people want us to talk about something on this show, we do it. The fans want him to be acknowledged. And I want to ask you a question. And because you're smarter than I am with this type of stuff. Why does Tom Ricketts care about this? Like, why is this such a hill for him to die on? He was not the owner of the team when Sammy Sosa did the things that were bad. So I'm asking you, as just from your smarts perspective, why is this such a problem for Ricketts?
Ricketts, for whatever reason, thinks that Sosa's presence would somehow toil with the Cubs' reputation.
Yeah, well, you know what toils with the Cubs' reputation? Starbucks outside the ballpark instead of putting guys in the field that can win. You worry about that. Let us tell you what we want to see.
Ultimately, I can't answer your question because, not to take a personal shot, but Ricketts has been very weird on this.
Yeah,
his behavior is just odd behavior. And let me read you this quote from Saturday morning. He said, everyone can have an opinion on it, but obviously the Hall of Fame voters believe there's two sides to this story. I know there's a lot of fans that have reached out to me directly that believe there's two sides to the story. I'd like it to get behind us as well, but I just want to be thoughtful about it and do it in a way that's respectful of both the people that love Sammy as a player, as I did, and people that respect the game too. I think there's a balance in there somewhere, and maybe we'll find that at some point. I don't think the final chapter is written on this, and we'll be open-minded to finding a way that works for everyone. But for the time being, I don't really have any updates on it, close quote.
Well, first of all, the Hall, nobody's asking him to be put in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
No.
Barry Bonds, which is a different conversation, is egregiously not in the Hall of Fame, and neither is Mark McGwire, but they were honored by their teams.
Well, 4 players have been welcomed back either to their main team or another team or broadcasting. Bonds, McGwire, Alex Rodriguez, and Manny Ramirez. Shoot, Manny Ramirez was a coach in the Cubs system.
Incredible point. Incredible point. And to the people
and
that
those are giant names. Giant.
And so is Sosa.
Right.
And to the point that because we've talked about this before, and I remember somebody saying, Sam, it's more than the steroids, though. It's the cork bat. It's the 04 stuff. Well, guess what? A-Rod, I mean, he lied
right
over and over and over again, and has proved that he is not an excellent human outside of the thing. But guess what, guys? It's not a character contest here. This is it's nostalgia. It's entertainment. It's what you bring to the table. I'm going to break some news that people might not know.
Okay.
Michael Jeffrey Jordan was not a presidential candidate.
Right.
You know, but at the end of the day, it's Michael Jordan. We're going to look past little stuff. And I get it. Michael Jordan never cheated. I understand that. I'm just saying, guys make mistakes. Enough already.
And the issue is the lack of an apology, that Ricketts wants him to be apologetic.
Right. Another great point. And again, hasn't he apologized enough without apologizing? Hasn't he served his time? What? He stopped playing for the Cubs after 04. It's now 2023, and he's not even welcome back. It's enough. And they've won a World Series since he left.
It's been 20 years.
Yeah, it's just enough already. What I don't want to see happen, God forbid, is if something were to happen to Sosa, health-wise or whatever, and then they honor him. You know what I mean? Like, don't do that. Do it now. Nobody cares.
I think the level of care by fans, Ricketts is actually putting it in a higher place than it is.
Right.
If we just got this issue settled, we'd all be done with it.
Do you think there's really people out there that would be severely bothered if Sosa was honored? I know that there's people. My dad's one of them that is like, hey, I think you're like way too strong on Sosa. Like, he cheated and he lied about it. So it is what it is. But my dad's not going to like lose sleep if they honor Sosa, not watch anymore. My dad's going to lose sleep if they win 71 baseball games.
Oh, it must run in the family. So, you know what I don't get though, too?
A lot.
Why do former players have an issue with Sosa? I'm starting to get a little bit fatigued
Like,
about
yeah,
that.
yeah, right. Okay, this is
You know,
yeah, yeah.
Ryne Sandberg was quoted over the weekend saying, quote, there was a little problem there with the way Sammy played the game. And if that's a roadblock, that's a roadblock, close quote.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't why do the players care so much about the the past? And if you are an equal or even greater icon in the franchise's history, wouldn't you want to lend out a hand and help rally the fan base, rally the organization, and complete the puzzle?
No, because if he does
Because
that,
Sosa's the last piece to the puzzle.
no, because if he does that, Ricketts wouldn't have given him a statue.
Well, that's
I
I'm bothered by that.
I remember growing up hearing the murmurs that Sosa wasn't a great teammate, but then most of the
It was a murmur, yeah.
most of the reasoning came from like blasting his music loud after games or
Right.
whatever. Yeah, like
Yeah, he was ahead of his time.
yeah, you hit 515, 515-foot home runs. I don't care if you take the music and throw it through the wall.
Right,
Uh, uh,
right, right.
you know what I mean? You know what I mean? You're going to hit 60 homers every year.
You can play the music till 2 a.m. if you want.
You could have my boombox. But yeah, Matt, I just think it's one of those things. And maybe it's easy for us to say there's always two sides to every story. I agree with Ricketts on that. Maybe there's some stuff we don't know. You always have to acknowledge that on these shows. But from what I've read, from what I've heard, from what I've lived, it just seems like one where you just say, all right, Tom, just sometimes you just give somebody a pass. That's just how life works. Life isn't always 2 + 2 = 4. Technically, you did this until you do this. No, that's boring. Okay.
Right.
He deserves some love, and hopefully he gets it.
And I don't believe Ricketts when he says he's open-minded. To use a 670 the score iconic phrase, who you crapping?
Yeah.
You're not open-minded. You weren't even a part of the franchise. You're not letting them back.
Yeah, no, open-minded.
And why are you so bothered that fans ask you? Stop being a weirdo about it, player.
Yeah, no.
Who are you crapping, man?
No, he's open-minded about one thing and one thing only, and that's Gallagher Way.
Coming up next, we're going to talk about two players that are going to be new to the Cubs Hall of Fame. Also, reveal some inside or some information about how players are getting in to the Northsiders Hall of Fame as well. And then some statue talk later in the episode, too. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every pro and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. We've got it all at betonline.net. They're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
Can I ask you a trivia question leading into this, please?
Sure.
I know it's not on the script. You'll get over it. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which major leaguer led the 1990s in total hits?
Mark Grace.
Mark Grace. There you go. That's all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I do know a few things about baseball.
No. Yeah, I know you do. More than a few.
So Mark Grace, Sam, and Shawan Dunston, new inductees into the Cubs Hall of Fame. It was announced at the convention over the weekend. What are your memories, if any, of these former two players? Do you have any?
Not much of Dunston. Mark Grace is such a great example of how much the game has changed. Let me read you his batting average from his rookie year until his last year with the Chicago Cubs. You ready?
Yes.
296, 314, 309, 273, 307, 325, 298, 326, 331, 319, 309, 309. Just an absolute solid machine that in today's age, if he put those numbers up, he'd be having Freddie Freeman type comps. But the game is so different. It's so much harder to hit these days. A very good baseball player, not a Hall of Famer, but a very, very, very good baseball player that was excellent for the Cubs in a line of very good first basemen. And a guy, by the way, that also had his off the field troubles after his career. And you know what? We move on from those because when he was playing in the 90s, he was awesome. It's a thought.
So Grayson Dunston get into the Cubs Hall of Fame. This is after last year when Pat Hughes and Jose Cardinal were inducted. The Tribune's Paul Sullivan gave some insight on Monday to the Cubs Hall of Fame process. He reported the voting committee is handpicked by the Cubs and made up of local media and former players, and that there's a certain threshold in years that surpass in order for you to be even eligible. And Sammy Sosa is first eligible for the Cubs Hall of Fame in 2024. So it's going to be up to local media and former players, and they do have a chance to vote Sosa in. Whether that actually happens at this point, I'm going to doubt, but there could be a path to him returning organically and with some fanfare if he is voted into the Cubs HOF.
And congrats to Grayson Dunston. But to me, it's just petty. Sean Dunston made 2 All-Star games in his career. Here's his career slash line: 269, 296, 416 for a 712 OPS. Not saying he's undeserving, but it's just petty. Just let Sosa have his time in the sun. That's really, I think, all I have to say about those two guys.
A Cubs and Baseball Hall of Famer, Ryne Sandberg, who we read his quote earlier in the show. There was some breaking news about him over the convention, and he is going to be the 6th member of the Cubs franchise, 5 players plus Harry Carey, to now have a statue, and we're going to discuss that coming up next. Looking for a delicious treat, but don't want all the fat and calories? Then you got to try a Built Bar. 100% real chocolate, 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. Built Bars are now available not only at Built.com, but your local Walmart and Sam's Club. You can pick up a 4-bar box in person, cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. Also online, flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and coconut almond. So if you're close to a Sam's Club or a Walmart, go in and grab a box or go to Built.com and try yourself a Built Bar. Welcome back to Locked On Cubs. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Ryne Sandberg, Cubs icon, was named to the All-Star game 10 times, won 9 Gold Gloves, 7 Silver Sluggers in 15 years with the Cubs, National League MVP in 1984, and was elected to Cooperstown in 2005. He will now be one of 6 statues outside of Wrigley Field. Cubs have a statue of Harry Carey and now 5 players. The first 4 were Ernie Banks, Ron Santo, Billy Williams, and Fergie Jenkins. Sam, I know we previewed on Monday's episode a little bit of a comedic angle to the whole statue business. And so let's try to reflect on this topic now as well.
Well, first of all, Ryne Sandberg's a Hall of Fame baseball player. Probably deserves his number retired, and him having a statue is nothing to sneeze at, because the White Sox have 50,000 statues outside their stadium.
They have 9.
Yeah,
and that is enough for a starting 9.
Now I say this. I just look at statues differently than I look at Hall of Famers. Like, to me, it's like, jersey retirement, Hall of Famer, in terms, not team Hall of Fame, baseball Hall of Fame. Although that, like I said, that's less credibility. And then, number retired. And then like a statue is like, for example, using Chicago sports because it's easier. For me, the Bulls should have 3 statues: Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Phil Jackson. I know Scottie Pippen, I was corrected. He does have like some sort of bust inside the stadium. I mean, outside, major thing, like its own shrine to the player. should be Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Phil Jackson. The Bears right now, I believe, are George Halas and Walter Payton. I think I'm fine with that. Obviously, Dick Butkus and Gale Sayers deserve a say along with Ditka. But even so, just if you have Halas and you have Payton, it just shows you how special a statue is. Like it's a shrine to the organization. For the Cubs, I love my dad's hero is Billy Williams. Ryne Sandberg's a great player. Ron Santo did so much for the radio booth as well, was a really good player. For me, though, it's like Fergie, Banks, Sosa, Carey would be it for me. And then for the Sox, it'd be like maybe Frank Thomas and I don't know, like Minnie Minoso since he was like Mr. White Sox.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know enough about hockey to divulge. My point is, it's just like, again, I'm fine with it. I'm never gonna poo-poo guys getting honored. He deserves an honor. He's a phenomenal player. To me, a statue is more than just, hey, because Ryne Sandberg was just a very, very good player for a long time. A statue for me is
the Hall of Fame player.
Not more than that, because he is a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah,
Ryne Sandberg's a Hall of Famer. Hall of Fame plus, like Hall of Fame of a Hall of Famer. We're talking about Michael Jordan and Walter Payton here.
Because you're being immortalized.
Exactly. That's just my take on it. But it's trending towards the Cubs. Maybe the Cubs are just like, hey, we're just going to build statues. It's good for the decor. They obviously have a 2016 statue coming, which is definitely should be there because out of everybody's statue, nobody produced a World Series but those guys.
Yeah, and I have to say, I believe I called that first. I heard another program.
No, you did.
Perhaps steal my idea today. Might have to call them out publicly on Twitter. I'll try to get some guidance.
Well, you were on that even before we had a show.
That's right. I appreciate you saying that. And the Blackhawks have Mikita and Hall, Sam's. They have 2.
And don't you think Kane and Taves eventually will go up there?
Yes, they'll have 4.
Yeah.
And so the White Sox have a setup where they have the 9, which is, you think, oh, that's kind of comical. Yeah. But it's logistically a setup where it's like on the concourse.
Right. It's not.
And so if the Cubs got creative and did that, I could see even a path to them adding potentially if that's how they look at statues.
Yeah, it's not like, for example, it's not like Michael Jordan's.
Right,
it's not 9 Michael Jordans where it's 1 and people are taking a picture of it, and it's like, wow, this guy literally is the god of the game. Right. Because Harold Baines ain't that.
Right. So teams have different definitions of it, which is fine.
Which is fine. And like I said, I'm never going to be the guy that says, hey, let's not honor this guy.
Right.
I'm just saying my take on it. Like, my point is I'm not rushing when I get to Wrigley this summer or whatever it is and say, oh, Matt, please take a picture with me in front of the Sandberg statue.
Yeah, sure. And that's going to vary for everybody, but I do see what you're saying.
Do you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean?
Right.
Banks.
I really look forward to 2052 when the Mervis statue's built.
Now, before we close up shop, how do you think, just because, again, Matt's really good with this type of stuff, guys, how do you think they're going to orchestrate the 16 statue? Because there's so many guys. Is it going to be like when that famous United States statue where they're planting the flag? Like, is it going to be, except you have to have there's like 10 guys. You have to have Bryant. You have to have Bryant. You have to have Rizzo. You have to have Javi. You have to have Contreras. You have to have Zobrist. You have to have Lester. You have to have Arrieta. You have to have Hedrick. Like, where's the cutoff?
Madden.
Yeah, Madden. How is it going to work? I'm
going to look into this.
Yeah,
I think that other teams have done a World Series statue, and a lot of it has to do with the names that are immortalized. So let me look into that. It's a good question. That photo, the Chicago Tribune photo of Bryant and Rizzo, that might be the statue of them celebrating, coming together, and then it's like small ones maybe of the players on the bottom, like a pose photo.
Great. Yeah, the Marine Corps War Memorial is what I was referencing. Should have known that. Yeah, that's actually great.
Go Cubs, by the way.
Yeah, it's great. That I think that might be it. And then you just, you have to, like, how can you not have Zobrist in it?
Oh, I don't see a path to him not being in it.
Yeah, yeah. They're not going to have Chapman in it for
Well,
PR.
he's not going to be in it.
Yeah, I know. It's just funny because if he's not on the team, they don't win anything. But it's fine.
What about Strop and Montero? They were popular this weekend.
Yeah, no, they should not be in it. Montero though. Again, you know what, Montero?
He should have his number retired.
I joke about it, but he really had two of the biggest hits in the history of the franchise.
He did.
So that's my point. I just don't know where the cutoff is. Is it just like it would be cool, but I don't know how it would work like architecturally because God knows that's not my area of expertise. Is to just almost just see if you could just get little things of like a team picture.
Yeah, something like that.
Because they should have like it should almost be like a Cubs 16 museum.
It'd be great.
No, it really should be. It really should be.
It should be.
There should be like its own wing where it's like, okay, you got Rizzo and Bryant.
Its own wing because they won, folks.
Hugging here and Madden, sipping on something there, and in a winter cap when it's 69 degrees outside. It makes it look like he's doing the game from Iceland.
Fun times. Well, coming up on the show this week still, we do have a mailbag. Please send your questions, 312-834-4634. We're also going to go over the new lineup with the addition of Trey Mancini. Talk more about the 40-man, where guys could open the season, and any news that breaks as well. Be sure to subscribe to Locked On Cubs on YouTube as we make the push to 3,000 subscribers. Also, hit that like button, Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcast on the audio side. Shout out to all the audio peeps. And again, the number to text, 312-834-4634. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Now make your second listen, Locked On MLB Prospects. We're host Lindsey Crosby. We'll have him again on before the season starts. Is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. Locked On MLB Prospects, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. He's Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.